The Florida Condo Betrayal. Chapter 1. The Weight of the Sun. The Florida sun had a way of pressing down on everything in late spring, turning the air thick and heavy like a wet blanket draped over the world. It wasn't the dry, crisp heat of the desert or the sharp bite of a northern winter. This was a slow, enveloping warmth that seeped into your bones, made your clothes cling, and reminded you constantly that you were alive in a place where nature never quite let you forget its presence. In the Carrollwood neighborhood of northern Tampa, where the palm trees swayed lazily along streets lined with modest stucco homes and low-rise condos, Evie Harper, felt that weight more than most people ever would. At 72, Evie moved with the deliberate caution of someone who had learned that rushing led to falls, literal ones on slick tile floors after rain, and metaphorical ones in life when you gave too much too fast. Her knees ached after more than 20 minutes standing in the garden, a dull throb that ibuprofen barely dulled anymore. The humidity turned her silver hair, once a rich chestnut that Tom used to run his fingers through, into a frizzy halo she tamed each morning with a spritz of water and a wide-toothed comb. Yet despite the complaints her body whispered, she still found real solace in her small, screened-in lanaya. It was her private world within the world, a 10 by 12-foot rectangle of concrete painted pale gray, enclosed by aluminum screening that kept the mosquitoes at bay, while letting the breeze carry the scent of jasmine from the neighbor's trellis. She sat there most afternoons in a padded wicker chair that had faded from forest green to a soft sage over the years, sipping iced tea from a chipped glass tumbler she'd bought at a roadside stand in the Florida Keys back in 1987. The glass had a faded palm tree etched on one side and a tiny crack near the rim that never quite split all the way through. Tom used to tease her about keeping it. "Evie, that thing's one drop away from disaster." But she liked its imperfections. They reminded her that some things endured not because they were perfect, but because you refused to throw them away. Today, the tea was Lipton, brewed strong and sweetened just enough to cut the bitterness, poured over ice cubes that clinked softly against the glass. She watched a pair of cardinals dart between the hibiscus bushes she'd planted herself 8 years earlier. The red blooms were vivid against the green leaves, almost defiant in the relentless sun. A sprinkler hissed next door, sending arcs of water that caught the light like tiny diamonds before soaking into the sandy soil. Somewhere down the street, a lawnmower droned, the sound rising and falling in lazy rhythm. Whispering Palms 55 wasn't one of those gated golf course communities with fountains and clubhouses that looked like Spanish missions. It was more modest, 2-story buildings arranged in clusters around a central courtyard with a kidney-shaped pool, shuffleboard courts, and a clubhouse where bingo nights and potluck dinners happened twice a month. The buildings were white stucco with red-tiled roofs, the kind of architecture that screamed Florida retirement without screaming expensive. Evie's unit was on the ground floor, thank goodness for small mercies, 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, about 1,200 square feet total. The living room had sliding glass doors to the lanaya, the kitchen opened to a small dining nook, and the master bedroom overlooked the parking lot but caught the morning light just right. The place had been built in 2002, back when developers were still throwing up condos as fast as they could get permits. Evie and Tom bought it in 2008, right at the bottom of the crash, for $135,000 cash plus closing costs. Tom had insisted on paying cash. He'd sold his mechanic shop in Ybor City the year before and socked every dollar away. "No more debt, Evie," he'd said, signing the papers with that steady hand of his. "We've earned this." She'd agreed, though part of her had worried about tying up so much money in one place. But Tom was gone now, 10 years this coming November, and the condo was paid off, the title in her name alone. That piece of paper felt like armor some days. The HOA fees started at $220 a month back then. Now they're $450 and climbing. The state legislature, spooked by the Surfside condominium collapse in Surfside Beach back in 2021, had passed laws requiring buildings 3 stories or taller to maintain hefty structural reserves. Whispering Palms had 2-story buildings, but the board decided to play it safe. New roofs, updated electrical in the common areas, hurricane impact windows on the clubhouse. Special assessments had come twice in the last 3 years. $1,800 the first time, $2,200 the second. Evie paid them from savings without complaint. It was the price of staying put. She took another sip of tea, letting the ice melt slowly against her lips. The afternoon was winding down toward 4 o'clock, that golden hour when the sun slanted lower and everything looked softer, less punishing. She thought about dinner, maybe a simple chicken salad with the leftover rotisserie bird from Publix, some sliced tomatoes from the farmer's market. Nothing fancy. She'd never been one for fancy. Her mind drifted, as it often did these days, to Marissa, her only child, born in 1980 at Tampa General, where Evie would later spend most of her career. Marissa came into the world screaming, fists clenched, as if already fighting for something. Evie remembered holding her that first time, the tiny weight against her chest, the smell of new life cutting through the antiseptic hospital air. Tom had stood beside the bed, tears in his eyes, whispering, "She's perfect, Evie, just perfect." Marissa grew up fast, too fast sometimes. By high school, she was ambitious, driven, always talking about getting out of Tampa, seeing the world. She went to USF on scholarships and loans Evie helped pay down over the years. Then real estate school, a quick marriage to Derek right after graduation. Derek was solid enough, tall, broad-shouldered, good with his hands, but Evie always sensed something restless in him, like he was waiting for the next big score. The 2008 crash hit them like a hurricane. Marissa lost her job showing model homes. Derek's construction crew got laid off project by project. They came to Evie one humid Saturday in October that year, sitting right here on the lanaya. Marissa's eyes were swollen from crying. Derek kept rubbing the back of his neck. "Mom, we found this fixer-upper in Lutz. 3 bedrooms, half-acre lot. We can flip it once the market turns. But we need help with the down payment, 20% to avoid PMI. And we might need you to co-sign. Our credit took a hit." Evie listened, heart twisting. She thought of the savings account she'd built slowly over decades. Double shifts, skipped vacations, brown bag lunches. Tom had left a small life insurance payout, but most of it went to final medical bills and funeral costs. "How much?" she asked quietly. "About $45,000 total for down and closing," Derek said. "We swear we'll pay it back, 2 years tops." Evie looked at Marissa, her daughter, her baby, and saw fear there, real fear. She thought of all the nights she'd rocked Marissa through fevers, all the scraped knees bandaged, all the school plays attended from the back row because she worked days. Mothers didn't say no to that look. She co-signed. Then, when the first mortgage payment looms and they were still jobless, she refinanced her own condo, pulled the equity, handed over the check. "It's a loan," she reminded them gently, "written down with interest if you want." They hugged her, promised everything. The market did turn, slowly. They flipped the Lutz house in 2012 for a $60,000 profit, bought in Wesley Chapel, newer subdivision, community pool, better schools for the kids they planned to have. Lily arrived in 2012, Mason in 2015. Evie was there for both births, holding Marissa's hand through the contractions, cutting the cords when the doctors offered. Life moved on. Evie retired from Tampa General in 2016 at 63 after a career that included ER chaos during Hurricane Irma, comforting families in the NICU, teaching new nurses how to start IVs without bruising fragile veins. Her pension was modest but reliable, $1,900 a month after deductions, plus Social Security at full retirement age. Enough to live comfortably if you didn't splurge. But Marissa and Derek always seemed to need something. Lily's soccer cleats, Mason's gaming console for his birthday, a new transmission for Derek's truck, $2,500 Evie covered because the warranty just expired, Mom. Bad timing. Anniversary trips to Key West. Evie wrote the checks, told herself it was temporary. Family helped family. But lately, the asks felt different, more entitled. Calls were shorter, visits were drop-ins. Can you watch the kids for 2 hours while we run errands? No please, no thank you sometimes. Evie noticed, but said nothing. She didn't want to be that mother, the one who complained, who kept score. That Thursday in May 2026 started ordinarily enough. Her old Honda Civic, 2009 model, still running strong, with 148,000 miles, needed a timing belt. The shop quoted $800. She winced, but scheduled it. Marissa offered the minivan. "Take mine, Mom, it's no problem." Evie accepted gratefully. The dentist appointment was routine: cleaning, x-rays, a lecture about flossing more. She left with a good report and a sample pack of sensitivity toothpaste. On the way back to Wesley Chapel, she stopped at Publix for bagels. Everything bagels, Marissa's favorite, and cream cheese. A small thank you for the van. She pulled into their driveway at 3:45 p.m. The house looked picture perfect. White siding, black shutters, palm trees framing the front walk. The minivan's tires crunched on the concrete as she parked. She grabbed her purse and the Publix bag, let herself in with the spare key Marissa had pressed into her hand years ago. "For emergencies, Mom, or whenever." The foyer smelled of coffee and lavender, Marissa's essential oil diffuser humming on the entry table. The house was quiet, except for the low murmur of voices from the home office at the end of the hall. Derek worked from home most days now, some kind of remote consulting for a software firm out of Atlanta. Good money, Evie gathered, better than construction ever was. She set the bagels on the kitchen island, granite, upgraded 2 years ago, and paused. The office door was cracked open maybe 4 inches. Light spilled out. Derek's voice carried clearly, excited, almost boyish. "Condo's worth about $280,000 now, easy. Zillow says $275 to $290, but with the market ticking up after the Fed cuts, we could push higher. Tampa 55-plus communities are holding steady. People still retiring here. We list it in the next few months, cash out the equity, and bam, down payment on the Winnebago. That 35-foot model we looked at last month, we could do it." Marissa laughed, that light, tinkly sound she made when she was pleased. "God, yes. Cross-country, national parks, no more HOA drama. And Mom, we can't just leave her in that place forever. Fees are killing her. $450 now and another special assessment coming for the elevators, or whatever the new law requires. She's fixed income. It wouldn't be fair." Derek's chair creaked. "Exactly. Discovery Village off Fletcher. I've got the brochure. 1-bedroom units start at $3,500 a month, all-inclusive, meals, activities, nursing on call. We use the condo proceeds to cover the gap above her pension and Social Security. Private room, her own bathroom, bingo, movie nights, shuttle to Publix and the doctor. She'll be set. Peaceful for everybody." Evie's fingers tightened on the edge of the island. The granite felt cold under her palm. Assisted living. Not the spare bedroom they'd joked about when Lily was a toddler. "When you're old and gray, Mom, you'll live with us. Guest suite with the view. Not family dinners every Sunday. Not grandchildren running through the halls calling her name." Marissa continued, voice dropping. "She's been amazing, Derek, truly, but you know how she is. Always commenting on the kids' iPad time, asking why we don't visit more. It's exhausting sometimes. This way, less tension. We visit weekends, bring the kids. She gets company without us feeling smothered." "Yeah," Derek said. "No more guilt trips. Freedom for us. She'll adjust. Old folks do." Evie felt something crack inside her chest. Not loud, not dramatic, but definite. Like a bone giving way under pressure it had borne too long. She backed up one silent step, then another. The bagels sat forgotten on the counter. She slipped out the front door, closed it with the softest click, and walked to the minivan on legs that felt detached from her body. The drive home was a blur. Traffic on Dale Mabry was light for once. The radio came on automatically, classic rock station, Jimmy Buffett singing about changes in latitudes, changes in attitudes. She didn't turn it off. The lyrics washed over her without registering. By the time she pulled into her own parking spot at Whispering Palms, the sun was lower, painting the stucco buildings gold. She sat in the car for a long minute, engine ticking as it cooled, staring at the dashboard. The chipped glass waited on the lanaya table, the hibiscus waited to be watered. Life waited. But something inside her had shifted irrevocably. She wouldn't cry yet. Tears would come later, perhaps in the dark hours before dawn. For now, there was only a cold, clear certainty. She had given everything, and it still wasn't enough to be included. No more. She got out of the car, locked it, and walked to her door. The key turned with its familiar rasp. Inside, the condo was cool from the AC she'd left running on low. She set her purse down, kicked off her shoes, and went straight to the lanaya. She sat in the wicker chair, picked up the chipped glass, took a long drink of tea that had gone lukewarm. The cardinals were back, flitting between branches. The sprinkler next door had stopped. The lawnmower was silent. Evie stared at the hibiscus blooms until the light began to fade. Tomorrow, she would start making calls. Tomorrow, she would protect what was left. Tonight, she simply sat with the truth. And for the first time in decades, the weight on her shoulders felt like it might finally lift. The morning light filtered through the vertical blinds in Evie's kitchen, casting thin golden stripes across the Formica table where she had eaten breakfast every day for nearly 2 decades. She poured coffee from the old Mr. Coffee machine, black, no sugar, the way Tom had always taken it, and carried the chipped mug to the table. The clock on the wall ticked past 7:15 a.m. Outside, the sprinkler system in the common area hissed to life, a soft, rhythmic patter against the palm fronds. Another ordinary Saturday in Whispering Palms, except nothing felt ordinary anymore. Evie sat down slowly, the wicker chair creaking under her slight frame. She stared at the yellow legal pad she'd pulled from the drawer where she kept grocery lists, unpaid utility bills, and the occasional birthday card from the grandkids. Today, the pad would serve a different purpose. She uncapped a ballpoint pen, the kind with the clicker that always jammed, and wrote the date at the top in careful, looping handwriting, May 23rd, 2026. Then, beneath it, one word, sacrifice. She didn't know exactly why she wrote it, maybe because the word had been living inside her chest for years, heavy and unexamined, and last night's overheard conversation had finally given it a name. Or maybe because she needed to see it in ink, to make it real before she could decide what to do with it. She took a sip of coffee. It was too hot and burned the tip of her tongue, but she welcomed the small pain. It grounded her. Evie had never been one to wallow. Nursing had taught her that. 35 years at Tampa General Hospital, ER rotations in the 1980s when crack cocaine flooded the streets, labor and delivery during the AIDS crisis, med-surg floors after Hurricane Andrew when half of the city seemed to need stitches and tetanus shots. She held hands while people died, wiped tears from mothers whose babies didn't make it, taught 22-year-old nursing students how to start an IV without leaving a bruise the size of a quarter. You learned early that emotions had their place, but they couldn't run the show. You did the next right thing, then the next, until the shift ended. But this wasn't a shift. This was her life, and the next right thing felt dangerously close to betrayal. Of Marissa, of the family she'd spent decades building, of the version of herself who believed love meant giving until there was nothing left. She flipped to a fresh page and began to list. It started small. 1982. Paid for Marissa's first pair of eyeglasses, $180. She was 8 and kept losing the school-issued ones. 1989. Summer camp at YMCA Winona near Lake Placid. 2 weeks, $450. Marissa came home with poison ivy and stories about canoeing. 1994. Senior prom dress, shoes, and professional photos. $320. Marissa had cried when she saw herself in the mirror. Evie had cried in the car on the way home because her daughter looked like a woman. 1998. First semester at USF. Tuition shortfall after scholarships and Pell Grant, $2,100. Evie worked overtime every weekend for 6 months to cover it. 2001, used Toyota Corolla so Marissa could commute safely, $6,800. Tom had grumbled but signed the check. Then came the big ones. 2008, co-sign on Lut's house mortgage, no cash outlay then but her credit on the line. 2009, refinance of Whispering Palms condo, $45,000 equity pulled and given to Marissa and Derek as a bridge loan. They promised repayment with 4% interest, no payments ever made. 2012, contribution to closing costs on Wesley Chapel House after the first flip profit, $8,000, just to help with the down payment gap, Marissa said. 2014, Lily's baptism reception at their new home. Evie catered it, hams, casseroles, sheep cake, $1,200 out of pocket. 2015, Mason's birth. Evie took 2 weeks unpaid to stay with them. Groceries, diapers, formula, another $900. 2017, Derek's transmission, $2,500. Warranty expired the week before, he said. 2019, Lily's travel soccer team fees and uniforms, $1,800 over 2 seasons. 2020, Mason's gaming setup for remote learning during the pandemic, $1,200. 2021, anniversary trip to Key West for Marissa and Derek. We need a break, Mom. $2,800 for hotel and flights. 2024, Christmas gifts for the grandkids when Marissa said money was tight, $600. 2025, emergency dental work for Derek, $3,200. Evie's pen slowed. She stared at the running total scribbled in the margin. $68,430. Not counting the countless smaller things, birthday checks, gas money when she drove the kids to appointments, school supplies, holiday meals, the time she paid Marissa's car insurance for 3 months when Derek was between contracts. She set the pen down. Her hand trembled slightly, not from age, but from the sudden weight of seeing it all laid out. $68,000. That was more than her entire pension savings when she retired in 2016, more than the down payment on this condo back in 2008, more than she and Tom had spent on their own wedding, honeymoon, and first house combined. She pushed the pad away and stood up. The kitchen felt too small suddenly. She walked to the living room, opened the sliding glass door to the lanai, and stepped outside. The morning air was still cool, the humidity not yet oppressive. She sank into the wicker chair and stared at the hibiscus bushes. The red blooms looked almost accusatory in the light. How had she let it happen? The answer came in fragments, each one a memory she'd polished smooth over the years so it wouldn't cut. First memory, 1980. Marissa was 3 weeks old. Tom was working late at the shop. Evie sat in the rocking chair in their tiny apartment in Seminole Heights, nursing the baby, exhausted and terrified she wasn't doing it right. Marissa latched, then pulled off and wailed. Evie started crying too. Quiet, hopeless sobs. She whispered to the baby, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. I promise I'll give you everything." That promise had rooted itself deep. It grew with every fever, every report card, every heartbreak. By the time Marissa left for college, the promise had become a reflex. Whatever she needed, Evie would provide. Second memory, 2005. Tom's diagnosis, congestive heart failure. The cardiologist's quiet voice. "We can manage it for years with medication and lifestyle changes." But Tom never changed much. He kept smoking, kept eating fried shrimp, kept working too hard. Evie quit night shifts to be home more. She cooked low-sodium meals he barely touched. She counted pills, scheduled appointments, held his hand during echocardiograms. When he died in 2015, the hospital bill was minimal thanks to insurance, but the life insurance payout barely covered the funeral and a year of mortgage. Evie was left with the condo, her pension, Social Security starting at 66, and a daughter who had just had her second child. Third memory, the day after the funeral. Marissa arrived with Lily, 3, and Mason, newborn. They stayed a week. Evie cooked, cleaned, rocked the baby so Marissa could nap. On the last day, Marissa hugged her tight and whispered, "You're the strongest person I know, Mom. Thank you for everything." Evie had believed her. Now she wondered if everything had an expiration date. She went back inside, retrieved the photo albums from the bottom shelf of the bookcase. They were heavy, the fake leather covers cracked with age. She carried them to the table and opened the first one. Black and white photos from her own childhood. Evie at 5 standing in front of the little house in Plant City where her parents grew strawberries. Her mother in a flowered apron, her father in overalls. Then color photos. High school graduation, 1972. Evie in a white cap and gown, smiling shyly. Nursing school pinning ceremony, 1976. Wedding day, 1978. Tom in a rented tux, Evie in a simple lace dress her mother made. Then Marissa. Baby pictures, toddler pictures, school pictures. First day of kindergarten, prom, graduation, wedding. Babies. Evie lingered on one photo. Christmas 2010. Marissa, Derek, and 1-year-old Lily in front of their half-finished Lutz flip house. Evie stood behind them, arms around Marissa's shoulders, smiling wide. She remembered that day vividly. She'd driven up with a crock pot full of chili and a bag of presents. They ate on folding tables in the unfinished living room. Lily crawled across the subfloor, giggling. Tom was still alive then, sick but alive. He took the picture. Evie closed the album. Her throat tightened. She didn't cry, not yet, but the tears were close, waiting behind her eyes like rain behind clouds. She picked up the legal pad again and turned to a new page. This time she wrote, "What I want now." 1. My home to remain mine. 2. My money to remain mine. 3. Respect, not out of obligation, but because I deserve it. 4. Time with my grandchildren without conditions. 5. Peace. She stared at the list. It felt selfish. Mothers weren't supposed to want things for themselves, but the alternative, being quietly erased, moved to assisted living like an inconvenient piece of furniture, was unthinkable. She needed help, professional help, the kind that understood Florida law, elder rights, asset protection. She remembered the AARP brochure she'd received last month. It had a section on financial exploitation. She found it in the stack of mail on the counter and flipped to the page. Financial exploitation of elders is a crime in Florida, the text read. If someone uses deception, intimidation, or undue influence to obtain an elderly person's money or property, it may be prosecutable under Chapter 825 Florida statutes. Evie's pulse quickened. She wasn't ready to think about prosecution, not yet, but the word crime made her feel less crazy for being angry. She dialed the AARP fraud watch number printed in bold, 1-877-908-3360. A calm female voice answered after 2 rings. "Fraud Watch Network, this is Carla. How may I help you?" Evie took a breath. "My name is Evelyn Harper. I'm 72. I think my daughter and son-in-law are planning to sell my condo out under me. I overheard them yesterday. They want to put me in assisted living and use the money for an RV." Silence for a beat. Then, gently, "I'm very sorry you're going through this, Mrs. Harper. You're not alone. Family financial exploitation is unfortunately very common, especially in states like Florida with high property values and a large retiree population." Evie exhaled. "What can I do?" "First, protect what you still control. Do you have a power of attorney in place that names your daughter?" "Yes, from 2014. She insisted after Tom died." "You can revoke it immediately. Contact the institution where it was filed or any bank or title company that has a copy and submit a written revocation. We can send you a template." Evie grabbed a fresh sheet and began writing. "Second," Carla continued, consider a revocable living trust for your real property. You remain in control during your lifetime, but you designate beneficiaries and conditions. An elder law attorney can set this up quickly. Do you have recommendations in Tampa? Carla gave her 3 names. The second was Sofia Ramirez. She specializes in asset protection for seniors facing family pressure, very highly regarded. Evie wrote the name and number. Third, Carla said, monitor your accounts, set up transaction alerts, consider a credit freeze if you're worried about them using your identity. Evie nodded, even though Carla couldn't see her. Thank you. This helps more than you know. You're taking the first step, Mrs. Harper. That's the hardest one. Call us anytime. Evie hung up. Her coffee was cold. She didn't care. She looked at the clock, 9:42 a.m. She had an appointment with Sofia Ramirez at 11 a.m. the next Tuesday. Until then, she would gather documents: deed, mortgage payoff statement, bank statements, old loan agreements she'd scribbled on napkins and never formalized. She also needed to talk to someone who wasn't a stranger on a helpline. Gladys lived 2 buildings over. 81, retired schoolteacher, sharp as a tack, widowed longer than Evie. They become friends over water aerobics and shared complaints about the HOA. She walked the short distance, knocked on Gladys's door. Gladys answered in a floral housecoat, hair and rollers. Evie, come in, sugar. I just made lemonade. They sat on Gladys's lanai, an identical to Evie's, but with more plants and a bird feeder. Evie told her everything: the overheard conversation, the list of money given, the fear. Gladys listened without interrupting. When Evie finished, she reached across the table and squeezed Evie's hand. My son tried something similar in 2019, Gladys said quietly. Wanted me to sign the condo over early for estate planning, said it would save on taxes. I said no. He didn't speak to me for 6 months. Then he apologized. We're better now. Not perfect, but better. Evie swallowed. Did you ever think about cutting him off completely? Every day for a while. But blood's thick. I just drew lines, hard ones. No more joint accounts, no more blank checks. He had to earn access again. Evie nodded slowly. I don't know if I can do that. You're already doing it, honey. You're here talking about it instead of writing another check. They sat in silence for a while, watching a hummingbird hover at the feeder. Before Evie left, Gladys gave her a hug. You call me anytime, day or night, and don't let them make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. You've earned that right. Back in her condo, Evie felt the first faint stirrings of something new. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. She opened her laptop, an old Dell she'd bought refurbished in 2018, and searched for Revocable Living Trust Florida. Articles popped up. She read carefully, taking notes. She searched for Discovery Village Assisted Living. The website was glossy. Smiling seniors playing cards, swimming laps, eating chef-prepared meals. Monthly rates started at $3,400 for a studio. Private 1-bedrooms were $3,800 to $4,200. Evie closed the tab. She would not live there, not if she had anything to say about it. By late afternoon, she had a folder labeled Future on her kitchen counter. Inside, the legal pad lists AARP printouts, Sofia Ramirez's card, copies of her deed, and recent bank statements. She made one more call, to her credit union. She asked about opening a new account in her name only, no joint access, with high-yield savings and transaction alerts. The representative was kind. We can do that over the phone, Mrs. Harper. Would you like to transfer funds today? Not yet, Evie said, but soon. She hung up and looked around her condo. The beige carpet, the faded couch, the framed photo of her and Tom on their 20th anniversary cruise, the only real vacation they ever took. This place was hers. Her money was hers. Her life was hers. And for the first time in a very long time, she intended to keep it that way. Chapter 3. Building the Wall. The next few days passed in a quiet blur of purposeful motion, the kind Evie hadn't felt since the weeks after Tom's funeral, when she'd forced herself to get up every morning and keep breathing. She moved through her condo with the efficiency of someone who suddenly remembered she had a job to do, not nursing patients this time, but nursing her own future back to health. Monday morning, she woke at 5:45, same as always. The alarm on her nightstand was an old digital clock radio that still picked up AM stations with scratchy gospel music. She turned it off before the preacher started shouting, swung her legs over the side of the bed, and sat for a moment, letting her feet find the cool tile floor. Her knees complained, but she ignored them. There was no time for complaints today. She showered quickly, hot water, lavender soap from the dollar store, and dressed in her usual uniform, lightweight khaki pants with an elastic waist, a cotton polo shirt in soft coral, white sneakers with good arch support. She pulled her silver hair into a neat ponytail, dabbed on a touch of lip color, and looked in the bathroom mirror. The woman staring back had tired eyes but a set jaw. Good enough. Breakfast was oatmeal with a sliced banana and black coffee. She ate standing at the counter, reviewing the mental checklist she'd made the night before. 1. Revoke the power of attorney. 2. Open the new bank account. 3. Gather documents for the attorney appointment tomorrow. 4. Start the trust research. 5. Call Gladys if panic sets in. She started with the easiest, the bank. At 9:01, she dialed Navy Federal Credit Union. She'd switched most of her accounts there after Tom died because they offered better rates on CDs and no-fee checking for seniors. The representative, a young woman named LaToya, was patient and professional. "Good morning, Mrs. Harper. How can I assist you today?" "I'd like to open a new savings account," Evie said. "In my name only. No joint access, no additional card holders, no online view permissions for anyone else. And I want transaction alerts on my phone for every withdrawal over $50. "Absolutely, ma'am. We can set that up right now. Do you want to transfer funds from your existing account?" Evie hesitated only a second. "Yes, I'd like to move $40,000 into the new savings, keep the rest in the old one for daily use, and set up direct deposit for my pension and Social Security to split, half to the new account, half to the old." LaToya walked her through it step by step. Evie read the routing and account numbers from her checkbook, confirmed her identity with security questions she'd set years ago, first pet, Rusty, mother's maiden name, Whitaker, and listened while LaToya explained the new account would earn 4.25% APY if she kept a minimum balance of $1,000. Not life-changing, but better than the 0.01% her big bank had been paying. "Anything else, Mrs. Harper?" "Yes, I'd like to add a note to my file. No changes to accounts, no new cards, no wires over $500 without me speaking to a live person first. And if anyone calls claiming to be me or my daughter, please verify with me directly." LaToya's voice softened. "I understand. We'll flag the account for enhanced security. You're doing the right thing." Evie thanked her and hung up. Her hands were steady now. She felt the first real brick of the wall slide into place. Next, the power of attorney. She'd signed the durable POA in 2014, 3 months after Tom's funeral. Marissa had come over with the form she'd downloaded from some legal website, sat Evie down at this very table, and explained it was just in case Evie got sick, in case something happened, in case Marissa needed to pay bills or handle insurance. Evie signed without reading every line. She trusted her daughter. She found the original in the fireproof lockbox under her bed, along with her birth certificate, Tom's death certificate, the condo deed, and the life insurance policy that paid out $42,000 after funeral expenses. She scanned the document with her phone using the free app the credit union recommended, then emailed it to herself as backup. Then she drafted the revocation letter. She kept it simple, using language Carla from AARP had suggested on the phone the day before. "I, Evelyn M. Harper, hereby revoke any and all powers of attorney previously granted by me, including but not limited to the durable power of attorney dated March 17, 2014, in favor of Marissa L. Thompson. This revocation is effective immediately." She signed it, dated it, and added her full address and Social Security number for clarity. She made 2 copies, one for her files, one to mail certified to Marissa with return requested. She also planned to send copies to the title company that held the condo deed and to her primary bank branch. She sealed the envelope, affixed a stamp, and walked the 6 blocks to the Carrollwood post office. The morning air was still bearable. By noon, it would be a sauna. She dropped the letter in the slot marked certified mail and felt another brick settle. Back home, she turned to the computer. The Dell was slow, 8 years old, fan wheezing like an old man, but it still worked. She opened a browser tab and typed Revocable Living Trust Florida Elder Law. Google returned pages of results: law firm websites, AARP articles, Florida Bar resources, NOLO.com explanations. She clicked on the Florida Bar's consumer pamphlet first. It explained that a revocable living trust allowed her to transfer the condo title into the trust while she remained trustee and beneficiary during her lifetime. She kept full control, could sell, refinance, change beneficiaries. Upon death, assets passed to successors without probate, which in Florida could take 6 months to 2 years and cost thousands in fees. Evie read carefully about conditions. Could she attach strings, like requiring Marissa to visit monthly or include her in family holidays? The pamphlet said yes, conditional bequests were enforceable if clearly written, but courts frowned on overly restrictive conditions that violated public policy. Reasonable expectations of family duty were usually okay, but must call every Sunday at 7 p.m. sharp might not be. Evie jotted notes on a fresh legal pad page. Trust name, Harper Family Trust. Trustee, me, Evelyn Harper. Successor trustee, maybe a neutral third party, Bank Trust Department or Gladys. Beneficiaries, Marissa, 40% with conditions, regular visits, inclusion in family events for 5 years after my death. Lily and Mason, 30%, direct to 529 college savings accounts, bypass parents. Tampa Bay Women's Shelter or similar, 30%, for single mothers starting over. She liked that last part, a quiet act of justice. If Marissa and Derek wanted to treat her like a disposable resource, perhaps some of her legacy could go to women who actually needed a fresh start. She printed the Florida Bar pamphlet and the sample trust language from NOLO. Tomorrow, she'd bring it all to Sofia Armirez. By early afternoon, she was tired, mental exhaustion more than physical. She made a tuna salad sandwich, ate it on the lanaya, and watched the cardinals return to the hibiscus. Their red feathers flashed like warning signs. She thought about calling Marissa, just to test the waters, to see if the daughter she raised would notice anything different in her voice. But she stopped herself. Not yet. Silence was her ally right now. Instead, she called Gladys. "Hi, sugar, how's it going?" Evie told her about the bank, the POA revocation, the trust research. Gladys whistled low. "You're moving fast. Good. Don't give them time to counter." "I feel guilty," Evie admitted, "like I'm punishing her before she's even done anything." "She's already done something," Gladys said firmly. "She planned to sell your home out under you. That's not nothing. You're not punishing, you're protecting. There's a difference." They talked for 20 minutes. Gladys shared the name of a financial advisor she trusted for annuities and CDs. "Lock some away where no one can touch it," Gladys advised. "Turn it into income you can't outlive." Evie thanked her and hung up feeling steadier. That evening, she joined the water aerobics class at the community pool for the first time in months. She'd skipped it lately. Too tired, too busy worrying about grandkids' schedules. Tonight, she showed up in her navy one-piece, towel over her arm. The instructor, Maria, a fit 60-something with a whistle around her neck, greeted her warmly. "Evie, we missed you." The class was small, 8 women, 2 men, all moving gently in chest-deep water to upbeat music from a portable speaker. They did leg lifts, arm circles, side steps, laughing when someone lost balance. Evie felt her shoulders loosen, the knot in her chest ease a fraction. After class, a woman named Ruth, short, curly, white hair, former librarian, walked with her back to the locker room. "You look different tonight," Ruth said, "like you've made up your mind about something." Evie smiled faintly. "Maybe I have." Ruth nodded. "Good. Whatever it is, don't let anyone talk you out of it. We get one life." Evie drove home in the fading light, windows down, smelling the jasmine and salt air that drifted in from the Gulf. She parked, walked to her door, and paused on the threshold. The condo was quiet. No ringing phone, no texts from Marissa asking for just a quick favor, no guilt waiting in the shadows. She stepped inside, closed the door, and locked it, both the deadbolt and the chain. Another brick. Tomorrow she'd meet Sofia Ramirez. Tomorrow she'd start turning plans into paper and signatures. Tonight, she allowed herself a small luxury, a glass of white wine from the bottle Gladys had given her last Christmas, still unopened. She poured it into the chipped palm tree glass, sat on the lanaya, and watched the sky turn from blue to lavender to deep indigo. The wall was rising, not out of anger, but out of necessity. And for the first time in years, Evie felt the foundation beneath her feet was solid, because she was the one laying the stones. Chapter 4. The Storm Breaks. The Sunday sun hung high over Wesley Chapel, turning the backyard of Marissa and Derek's pool house into a bright, humid stage. It was late June 2026, the kind of Florida afternoon where the air felt like warm soup and the smell of charcoal smoke mixed with chlorine from the pool and sunscreen on the kids. Evie pulled into the driveway at 3:55 p.m., exactly as she'd planned. She carried the key lime pie she'd bought from the Publix bakery, $18.99, the tag still on the box, because showing up empty-handed had never been her way, even now. The house looked as polished as ever, fresh mulch in the flower beds, the American flag snapping gently on the front porch, the minivan she'd borrowed earlier in the week washed and gleaming. She parked her Civic next to Derek's truck, a new Ford F-150, paid for with what she suspected was partly her money, and took a slow breath before stepping out. Lily spotted her first. "Grandma Evie!" The 14-year-old sprinted across the grass in cut-off shorts and a soccer jersey, throwing her arms around Evie's waist. Mason followed at a trot, 11 and all elbows, hugging her legs. "Did you bring pie? Mom said you always bring the best pie." I laughed despite everything, bending to kiss the tops of their heads. Their hair smelled of coconut shampoo and chlorine. "Of course I did. Key lime, extra tart, just how you like it, Mason." Derek manned the grill on the screened patio, flipping ribs that sizzled and popped, the sauce caramelizing in dark lines. He wore cargo shorts and a Tampa Bay Lightning t-shirt, a beer in one hand, tongs in the other. "Evie, perfect timing. Ribs are almost ready." Marissa emerged from the kitchen sliding door, wiping her hands on a dish towel patterned with flamingos. She looked good, hair highlighted, nails done, the effortless put-together of someone who hadn't spent the last week tallying decades of sacrifices on a yellow legal pad. "Mom, come in, come in. I made your favorite potato salad, the one with the mustard dressing." Evie handed over the pie box and let herself be pulled into a quick hug. Her perfume was light, citrusy. For a moment, she almost forgot. Almost. The afternoon unfolded in the familiar rhythm of family gatherings. Kids splashed in the pool, while Derek called out grilling updates. Marissa set the long patio table with plastic plates, red Solo cups, and a stack of napkins. Evie helped carry sides, coleslaw crunchy with fresh cabbage, baked beans thick with bacon and brown sugar, macaroni salad dotted with olives and celery, corn on the cob wrapped in foil, and a big bowl of watermelon cubes. Classic Florida Sunday barbecue, no surprises, no shortcuts. They ate at 5:30, plates piled high. The ribs fell off the bone, tender and smoky. Evie complimented Derek on the rub. He'd used a store-bought one with a kick of cayenne, but he'd slow-cooked them low and slow for 4 hours. Conversation stayed light. Lily's upcoming soccer tournament in Orlando, Mason's obsession with Fortnite skins, Marissa's promotion at the real estate office, Derek's latest consulting gig that had him working from home 3 days a week. Evie listened, smiled, nodded. She asked questions, laughed at the right moments. But underneath it all ran a current of quiet observation. She noticed how Derek glanced at Marissa when the kids talked about when Grandma comes to stay for the tournament. She noticed Marissa's quick subject change. She noticed the way they both avoided mentioning her condo and the rising HOA fees that had come up in casual phone calls last month. After plates were cleared and the kids ran back to the pool, Marissa steered Evie to the far end of the patio table, away from the grill noise. Derek joined them, pulling up a chair with deliberate casualness. He cracked another beer. "Mom," Marissa began, folding her hands on the table like she was about to pitch a listing. "We've been thinking about the future. Your future, I mean." Evie sipped her iced tea, unsweetened, the way she liked it now that sugar made her jittery. "Go on." Derek leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Evie, the HOA at Whispering Palms, it's getting rough. Fees up to $450, and word is another special assessment coming for the elevators and roof reserves. New state law after Surfside, you know. We don't want you stressing over maintenance calls or bills on a fixed income." Evie set her glass down carefully. The condensation left a wet ring on the glass tabletop. "And your solution?" Marissa exchanged a quick look with Derek. "We found this great place, Discovery Village at Tampa Palms. It's assisted living, but really nice. Private rooms, chef-prepared meals, activities every day, bingo, water exercise, even shuttle trips to the mall and Publix. Base rates around $3,800 a month for one bedroom, but with your pension and Social Security, plus what we'd get from selling the condo." She trailed off, waiting for Evie to fill in the blank. Evie didn't. She let the silence stretch until it felt uncomfortable. Derek jumped in. "The condo's probably worth $275,000 to $390,000 right now. Tampa 55 market is holding steady, median around $330,000 to $350,000 in the area, but yours is smaller, ground floor. We could list it quick, cash out the equity, cover the assisted living gap, maybe even have a little left for extras. You'd be set, no worries." Evie studied them both. Marissa's eyes were earnest, pleading almost. Derek looked practical, like he was closing a deal. "I see," Evie said quietly. "You want to sell my home, the one I own outright, the one I refinanced to give you $45,000 back in '09, the one I've paid taxes and fees on for 18 years, and move me into a place I didn't choose, so you can have freedom." Marissa's smile faltered. "Mom, it's not like that. We love you. We just want what's best." "I heard you," Evie interrupted, voice calm but edged with steel. "Last Thursday, when I brought back your minivan, office door cracked, talking about the Winnebago, the cross-country trip, peaceful for everyone, because I fuss about screen time and calls." Derek's face flushed redder than the ribs. "You were eavesdropping?" "I was returning property that belongs to you." The door was open. Evie folded her hands in her lap. "You discussed putting me in assisted living like I was a problem to solve. Not once did you mention asking me. Not once did you say, 'Mom, what do you want?'" Marissa's eyes filled with tears. "Mom, it's not like that. We love you. We just want what's best." "I heard you," Evie interrupted, voice calm but edged with steel. "Last Thursday, when I brought back your minivan, office door cracked, talking about the Winnebago, the cross-country trip, peaceful for everyone, because I fuss about screen time and calls." Derek's face flushed redder than the ribs. "You were eavesdropping?" "I was returning property that belongs to you." The door was open. Evie folded her hands in her lap. "You discussed putting me in assisted living like I was a problem to solve. Not once did you mention asking me. Not once did you say, 'Mom, what do you want?'" Marissa's eyes filled with tears. Mom, it's not like that. We love you. We just want what's best. I heard you, Evie interrupted, voice calm but edged with